This thread about how to succeed as an artist went viral on Twitter, and people are kind of up in arms about it. Some people think it's a really great thread, and others are upset. So let's get into it. And again, to address the elephant in my room, I'm at home visiting my family for Thanksgiving, so this is why the setup looks a little weird. If you watch my other video, I could not find my mic. I found it now, so the audio is gonna be better. This is a thread that was written by Stylized Station, who also goes by Stylized Station on Twitter. And they write, "Talent is overrated. As an artist who built a six-figure business without natural talent, here's that uncomfortable truth about what drives real success." A thread. At 28, I realized my talent would never measure up to the geniuses of the art world. Based on skill alone, I'd never be the prodigy or the standout artist. But I knew this. The art industry doesn't reward just talent, it rewards strategy. So I decided to destroy everyone else at the two things most artists ignore: marketing and business. Here's the harsh reality. The art world doesn't reward the most talented, it rewards the smartest. You don't need to be the best at art. You need to know how to sell it, market it, and connect with an audience. Here's exactly how I did it. Treat your art like a business. Most artists pour everything into their craft but ignore the business side. Big mistake. I spent just as much time learning marketing, branding, and entrepreneurship as I did on my art. Books like Show Your Work and Building a Story Brand changed my mindset. Business isn't the enemy. It's your secret weapon. I treated my creative work like a product. Who's the audience for this? What problem does it solve? How do I get it in front of the right people? If you can answer those questions, you're already ahead of 90% of artists. And I have to say personally, those questions are extremely important questions when it comes to business. When it comes to doing business and things like that, the big thing is, again, you need to drive sales. You need to make money, and making money is through sales. And so how do you do that, right? You need to identify your audience, a core problem your audience struggles with, and present them a solution in a well-marketed and palatable way that they will be willing to accept. An example of this is clothing brands, right? Clothing is a very saturated market. There's a lot of brands cropping up at every corner, but there is still space in the industry for more brands to come up because each brand will have a different target, right? So, for example, a brand like Chanel is targeting a specific audience with a specific set of needs, people that are in a wealthier tax bracket, typically older, and other brands are targeting different types of audiences. And this is, again, where marketing and business strategy really comes into play. So Stylized continues, marketing is just another creative skill. Marketing isn't a chore. It's an extension of your creativity. I learned to love the challenge of crafting hooks, designing thumbnails, and building a personal brand. Think of marketing like storytelling. It's not about selling, it's about connecting. My first viral YouTube tutorial wasn't polished, but I framed it around what my audience needed: a beginner's guide to stylized 3D art when at the time there wasn't much out there. The message resonated, and people shared it like crazy. Marketing isn't about you, it's about them. Build systems, not chaos. Consistency beats burst of inspiration. I built systems to keep me on track. Automated emails with ConvertKit, a content calendar to stay ahead, workflow tools like Notion to manage projects. And I personally will have to interject and state the whole concept of consistency beating bursts of inspiration and building systems to keep you on track is actually really important if you want to take anything and make it a very long-term endeavor. So many times, it's not just with art, right? With content creation, etc., the inspiration is not really lacking. A lot of us have inspiration ideas, but the thing that sets some creators and artists apart from others is the ability to kind of like stick it through in the long run. And this is where consistency and the systems to help set you up for that long-term success really plays a part. And Stylized continues, systems free up your brain for creativity. Don't just work harder, work smarter. Instead of creating randomly, I planned content that fed into my business goals. Tutorials brought in followers. Free resources built trust. Courses turned engagement into income. Every post had a purpose. Share imperfect work. Perfectionism kills momentum. My first tutorials had bad audio and awkward pasting, but I still posted them. They helped me connect with my audience and improve over time. The art world doesn't need perfect creators. It needs consistent ones. And I am also somebody who does a lot of creator education content around teaching people how to be creators and grow as a creator. And sharing imperfect work is something that I could not emphasize more. There's so many people, creators that I know, extremely talented people, but your perfectionism is something that will hold you back. It honestly is a hindrance in many aspects because it will hinder you from hitting that post button. And I recently just did a talk at a college, and one thing that I stated in my panel on that college is it doesn't matter how many great ideas you have. It doesn't matter how well thought out your ideas are, how perfect your ideas are. What matters is if you actually do the idea and if you actually put pen to paper and make the action happen. And between two people, you could have person A with an extremely well fleshed out, well thought out idea where every single potential obstacle they could encounter has been thought about and a conclusion has been derived from. They will likely not do as well, in my personal opinion, as person B. Somebody with an idea that maybe is not as well fleshed out, or maybe not even as good of an idea, but they were actually the ones putting pen to paper, putting the action and the effort in to actually create something tangible, create posts, create videos, create artwork, whatever. Even if they're putting out imperfect things into the world, they're still putting something out. And your ideas, no matter how good, they're not gonna amount to anything if you only keep them in your head. And that's the same thing with perfectionism, right? Because there's this thing that you're working on and you're working on, but you never actually hit post, you never put it into the world, then nothing can derive from it because it's gonna reside on your computer on a hard drive because you're just blocked by perfectionism. So while I think perfectionism is a very good thing in many aspects in terms of always pushing you to be better, pushing you to work harder, it can be a very big hindrance if you then use that perfectionism and not post the things that you're making. Stylize writes, sharing imperfect work isn't about growth. It's also great marketing. People resonate with the process. Show your messy sketches, failed renders, and experiments. Your audience doesn't want a finished product. They want you. Community is the secret sauce. Most artists think success is about followers. It's not. It's about building a community that supports and amplifies your work. On that, I have to say too, throwing in my 2 cents, right? If we look at two different creators, creator A is a creator with 1 million followers, but they only have like a 0.1% engagement rate because most of their followers followed them a really long time ago and they're not active anymore. Versus person B. Person B only has like 40,000 followers, but almost all of their followers are extremely engaged. They're very active in their community. They are always responding, engaging with posts, etc. Between the two creators, the audience of creator B is actually worth a lot more than the audience of creator A. Because of the high engagement rate, the high investment the audience has into the creator, they are worth a lot more. And I'm not even speaking worth monetary wise, right? And monetarily, it would be worth more because an audience like creator B would be able to drive more sales because they're so engaged. But just in general, as a creator, you just have a much more attached audience that is there for you. And in my opinion, between those two creators again, right, creator B has a lot more to offer. And this also goes into brand sponsorships as well. And I'm sorry, I'm derailing a little bit, but a lot of brands will prefer to work with somebody like creator B over creator A, even though creator A has more followers, because the audience of creator B is worth more in not so tangible terms. So that's just something I want you guys to keep in mind as well. A lot of people will look at other creators with more followers and be like, wow, wait, they're doing so much better than me. No, there's a lot of value that you will have in your audience as well, especially if you are a small creator but with an engaged audience. So Stylize continues, I created spaces like my Discord server where artists could learn, share, and grow. Community isn't about engagement. It's a marketing machine. If you invest in your community, they'll invest in you. Every retweet, share, and recommendation came from people who trusted me because I showed up for them first. Outwork and outthink. I wasn't the most talented, but I worked harder than most and outthought everyone else. The art world isn't a fair playing field, so I built my own strategy to win. Focus on skills that scaled. Marketing, storytelling, systems, community building. Here's the truth. Talent is optional. Success comes from strategy, consistency, and the courage to put yourself out there. We'll cover even more interesting topics about creative business in later threads. I'll be answering questions below and in my DMs. Thanks for reading. And after reading this thread, right, personally, again, throwing in some extra 2 cents that I have, I fully agree with everything that Stylize has said. Everything that they have stated is a very meticulous and well thought out explanation of how they have arrived at where they are today in terms of their growth. And it's a very well written analysis of how they got there and how we could implement those steps as well. The thing is, and we'll explore this a little bit more when I start reading the comments, a lot of times it's more than just passion. It's more than just talent, right? You could be an extremely talented artist. You could be an extremely talented creator. But we live in a capitalistic society, and with late stage capitalism, it is all about marketing and selling yourself to people. And that's probably like not the best way to word it, but that basically is what it is, right? You essentially grow an audience by selling your personality, your arts, or your gaming skills, whatever it is that you've niched into, to the wider audience of content consumers out there. And if you want to be financially successful, or I guess following wise successful as a creator, an artist, etc., you can't ignore the business aspect. And Just to throw in another aspect as well, there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be dedicated to the art and the craft and the beauty of doing something without the pursuit of financial gain or followers or clout or anything from that. That is completely fine. And there's many people out there who are artists who want to do art. They don't want to do business. They don't want to make money from it. That is totally fine. Go pursue your art, pursue the creativities in the comforts of your own home or wherever you choose to do your art, and we will call it that. But I will say, in this day and age, in a late stage capitalistic society where everyone's attention spans are dwindling by the day, if you do want to make money from art and if you do want to gain a following and a community for the beautiful pieces you're putting out there, you have to approach it with a business mindset and you need to market. And when I say the word need, it is again you only need to do this if your intention is to grow and make money. If that is not your intention, do whatever the fuck you want. It's totally your prerogative. But if you do have the intention, you want to grow and gain followers, I feel like a lot of creators and a lot of artists and people in these creative fields have a misconception that I will just do art and then if my art is good, people will watch. And that's not really how it works. And again, there are so many extremely talented creators, artists, whatever out there, and they don't get the exposure that somebody of their skill level potentially should have. And it's because the marketing aspect was neglected. So that's not really something a lot of people want to hear. So many artists that I talk to want to do art and they don't want to do business. And again, that's totally fine if you have no intention of growing or trying to make money from your craft. But if you do want to grow followers and make money from your craft, right, which I feel like a lot of us in the back of our minds maybe have thought about this idea before, there is the marketing aspect that, in my opinion, shouldn't really be ignored. So in this case, I do really agree with what Stylized says here. People are on different sides of the coin, right? And again, I want to say this is no hate to anybody leaving their comments. Everybody has their own opinions as well, right? And I feel like especially talking about art and crafts and like how to approach your art and your business, people can get sometimes, sensitive and attached to the way that they do things. So I just want to say, please be respectful of everybody's sides of this, and let's just make it a civilized discussion. Jartaz says, that's called being a businessman. You're definitely not an artist. Stylized Station replies, there's this stigma that if you're good at business, you're not an artist. But why should artists be shamed for marketing themselves well? Art and business aren't enemies. They can work together. If anything, being good at both means you can make a living and keep creating. In my personal opinion about this, I feel like in the art space, there is a really big purist mindset when it comes to art where you need to be an artist and strictly an artist through and through. And if you aim to pursue some more financial endeavors or business endeavors, you are not a purist to the arts anymore because you have, I guess, sold yourself to the capitalist demons or something of the sort. The way I look at things, and this is my approach to life in general, there are resources and there are things out there. And these are tools to help you and to help push you forward and help you succeed. There will be people out there that will choose to use these tools to propel themselves forward. And if you want to be a purist and stick to your mindset, that's totally fine. If your goal is to grow and to make some money out of this, there will be people that will be using these tools. And if you don't do it, you're not going to keep up with the rest. By tools, I mean like marketing and business strategy, okay? I'm not talking about AI art. That's not what I'm referring to here. Marketing is a tool and a strategy that you can use to propel your art in front of new eyes. And I view it as a way to assist you in terms of getting to your final destination, right? Which is building an audience that loves you for your art. There was the case of another VTuber who was like doing a paid watch party for their debut, and they were offering to pay creators to watch along their debut. I think it's a really great business strategy. In cases like these, like nobody's getting exploited, nobody's getting hurt, right? It's just business strategy, and I think it's a good strategy. And I think in this case too, using marketing to propel your artwork forward is a good strategy. It does not hurt anybody that's getting involved. It's only going to propel you forward. And we have Renan who writes, money is not artistic success in all caps. And Stylized replies, totally agree. Money doesn't define success. But in a world where many artists struggle to survive, understanding the business side ensures we can keep creating. Financial success isn't the goal, it's the enabler. And I agree! Oh my god, because the artistic field is a poor one. There's not that much money for like going around for artists as it is, and it sucks. I love art. I love artists, and if I had a fuck ton of money, I'd be commissioning artists left, right, and center so that they can make a living wage and pay their bills and not be struggling to make ends meet. This is a whole other thing I can ramble about for a very long time, but in this current day and age in society, what saddens me so much is the lack of value placed on art compared to other endeavors, right? And I think art is something that should be valued a lot more, both like in general and financially speaking. So the way Stylized is saying that financial success is the enabler, I think it's a huge thing, right? Like if artists are not struggling to make ends meet, they will have more time and luxury to make beautiful art. They will have more resources at their disposal with better equipment. I think money can only help in this scenario too, to give you the tools to make better art. So Melody says, the only thing I don't like about this is you basically got lucky with doing something that didn't exist. And the endpoint was, quote, become a YouTube creator and make content creation and hit algorithms, end quote. Everything has been done now, and you are more a streamer business. Stylization says, I get what you're saying. Luck played a role, but consistency and strategy was what kept me going. Even if it feels like everything has been done, there's still space for creators who bring something unique to the table. The key is finding your voice and building real value. And I definitely will say too, and this is, again, I'm throwing in my own 2 cents too with like my personal opinion, right? But with myself as well, people have always told me, oh, you only got to where you are because of luck. And this is referring to like my TikTok where I do like creator education stuff, right? People were like, you only got here because of luck, etc. And I think the thing is, it's a couple of things. The way that I view luck is that I view it as an opportunity that is presented to everyone. Obviously not the same opportunity, right? But everybody in life has opportunities that are presented to you at different stages. And the big thing is you need to be in a position in your life to accept that opportunity with open arms. And a lot of people are not there. So there's definitely privilege that comes into play to getting yourself into a position where you can accept that opportunity. I'm not denying that, right? I have a lot of privilege in my life. I've talked about it many times with my parents paying for my college, coming from a loving family. So I am not fighting with me pursuing content creation was a lot of fighting, but coming from a family who I know if things got rough, there will always be a roof over my head, paying for my college, stuff like that. That's privilege. Luck does play some factor in presenting you with this opportunity, but you still have to work hard to keep it. And I feel like every successful creator that I've talked to, a very, very, very few attribute straight luck to where they got to where they are today. Most of them, and this is from my personal analysis looking at their content growth as well, it really is they made smart business strategies, they made smart business decisions. And then onto the thing about, oh, you got lucky and did something that didn't exist, but therefore it exists now, so I can't do it. I don't think that's also a fair mindset to have, because there's always something to offer, because you can offer a different lens or perspective onto it. When using my own personal anecdotal experience, right? I do creator education. I do news stuff on YouTube, but creator education is what I do on like all my other platforms. And when I started doing creator education, there was already other people doing it. Harris Heller has already been around, okay? There was Devin Nash, all of these other big creators doing creator education. So the way you look at it, it's like, oh, well, like, why the fuck would I do that? Entering into a niche that there's already people with a fuck ton of followers in there already. It's because you could offer a different lens. The different approach that I offered was I appealed to a female and femme audience. So, and most of those other creators at the time were appealing to male audiences. So I had that. And also, I delivered my information in a much more scuffed way, which I felt like appealed to a different audience. This goes back to business and business strategy, how Stylized earlier was stating, identify your audience, identify their core problem, right? My audience is not the same as somebody as Harris Heller. Harris Heller's audience is a different audience than mine. I'm trying to target, in terms of my creator education, students, people in a more like, volatile is not the correct term, but some people who have been doing something for a while, maybe a full-time job, and they decide they really want to like think about trying content or something else creatively. And they have ADHD and they don't digest information well if it's presented in an extremely high level manner. So I kind of like dumb it down and make it really, really simple to digest in very short form snippets. And that was the audience that I was trying to target. Going back to what I was saying about clothing, right? There are new clothing brands coming left, right, and center all the time. But, and if you think, oh, clothes have already been made, so I don't need to make a new clothing brand, that's never the case. There's always a niche audience out there that's looking for a new product, a new angle to target them, right? So I think the mindset of things have already been done, so therefore I can't do it is a very limiting mindset. I'm not trying to shade the creator who said that, right? It is just one of those where I feel like mindset's also very important. And I used to have a very limiting mindset where I was like, oh, I can't do this because like other people already did it too. I think for me to get to a place where I could be like, hey, I could do anything I put my mind to, it just took a really long time. I'm gonna be real. Took a really long time of me like working on myself and my content. And then other people making quote retweets stating, "Thank you for ruining the art community and social media algorithm." But a lot of people were also agreeing with the thread that Stylized put out. So Carson writes, "This doesn't just apply to art, this applies to almost every passion. In order for one to grow, they can either do it at the right place and the right time, or happen to stumble upon that right place and time without noticing it." Daikiri writes, "Not all successful and amazing artists are talented, but all of them had dedication and years of practice in their craft." 2K Dolpha writes, "I agree with this thread except for one point. Talent is not optional. Saying so implies people do not need to work to improve their art or be remotely happy with what they put out. We need to stop the hyper-industrialization of art, not embrace it. Marketing is in itself a separate art form," which is the thread's point, and I agree. I've done it myself. But please never abandon the passion that makes art what it is. There is no room for greed here. And Stylized replies stating, "Talent is important and working to improve is key to artistic growth. My point is that talent alone isn't enough. Consistency and strategy can take you further. Marketing isn't about industrializing art. It's about making space to create the work you love." And sometimes talent, skill, ability, they're sometimes used like interchangeably, right? Talent implies that you're born with it and that's it. Whereas I don't think it's the case. I think anybody can learn to draw. And it's one of those where some people are born with like better innate skills, but it can be learned, right? Like some people are just born with a very, very good way of perceiving color. They're born with just a natural ability to perceive shapes and flow better than other people. You do need some level of skill, some level of ability, and you should always work to hone your ability, your craft, and get better. Same thing with content creation, right? You should always work to be a better creator. How can you elevate your videos to the next level? Maybe through better production value, better editing, etc. There's always something you can improve upon in the craft itself. But yeah, marketing is a tool just to get it in front of more eyes. And we have Yiffy who writes, "Accurate. Art is not really a talent. It's a skill that requires visual memory and execution." And I absolutely agree. A big part about art, besides creativity, is you see thing and you put thing pen to paper and make it appear. And it can be trained. Some of the best ways to increase this are 1. Plain and simple, healthy diet and enough sleep. 2. Make sure that when you study, you do it roughly in the early middle side of when you're awake. If you get too close to the time that you're about to sleep, makes it easier. Lost, also that's when you usually burn out. And when you burn out and let your brain fry, you gain nothing. 3. Using references while chewing gum. I don't like suggesting to use chewing gum because a lot of them do have replacement sugars that can really F up your stomach. However, chewing gum has shown great results with improved recall. Also, never say that someone is more talented than you, because even if they start early, you can always work to improve, and you may even surpass their current skill set, as they may also do the same right back. So there's really no such thing as a better artist, just proper experience for your own self at the current time being. And that's what you need to find. These are like great study tips in general, not just for art, but for life, if you're in school, etc. I believe that art is something that can be learned. There's definitely things you can do to improve the learning for your art. And I think if you just approach life with a very open mind for learning, it can be very helpful. But to wrap this all up, I am curious about your thoughts on this thread. Again, don't send hate to anybody involved. I'm curious about your thoughts on how talent and strategy play a role in art. Are you an artist? What are your thoughts on, I guess, the quote-unquote industrialization of art, or basically artists using more business practices in their implementation of their artwork and getting it in front of new people? So I'm curious on your thoughts. Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you like this video, I appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. I hope to catch you guys in another video.